Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in Desert Dark Crusade Season 2. Tonight, we set the scene in the Smithy's Guild Hall with Menman and several of his more mortal colleagues who have all collectively decided to meet up together to give a quick rundown on how business is going and how it could be perhaps improved. In addition to a rather simple yet forthright guardsman also attending at Menman's request. He's security for the night. Is I suppose the reasoning, and nobody's really going to question it.
Okay, cool.
Nothing else a capable security guard.
Right. Okay. So I would take it that Christoph, this man, Memnon, had come roughly acquainted with in the nights in between his first arrival, and the patron that he met in Italy is with him, and Yorin, his right-hand man, so to speak, at the market. Memnon would first ask of Vasily, how are the men of the guild doing? How have they weathered this recent catastrophe?
A lot of it simply comes down to whether they survived at all. The plague utterly ravaged the area. For those that didn't die, a lot of them lost their backers. A lot of the more affluent among us and our investors just fled the city and decided to wait out the storm in safe gated communities. A lot of us did more institutional business during that time frame. Didn't deal as much with people, dealt more with a watch, more business to business. To know. Aristocrats that needed guarding or equipment for their own men dealt less with folks on the ground. Wasn't safe to do so. Too much risk of infection.
It's a shame. Has the guild lost a considerable amount of manpower, or is it negligible?
A lot of the guilds lost people. I'd say. Let's actually look up the guilds. Guilds, there you go. Perhaps the only guild that wasn't as hard hit was the Merchants Guild. A fair few of their number fled the city and returned, or are in the process of returning. Other than that, it seems a lot of them just got lucky. And where quite a few of them paid for protection during that time frame, crime skyrocketed.
I would suppose that the extra man hours and overtime, it diverted that manpower from the needy.
Quite, we had to close ranks. both as an organization and in terms of the protection of our own wares. And ourselves, of course.
Well, it seems apparent that we are in a position to level the playing field with the vacuum that now exists. Actually, out of character, I don't even know if that word exists back in that time, but I'm sure the concept might have called it a bellows. Sorry. So, if we had the means to, did we replenish our ranks now? Or perhaps just shore up the longevity of the members that we can retain?
Pardon, sorry? You're cutting in and out a little bit, like your volume goes up and down quite a lot.
Oh, jeez, that's weird. Sorry about that. Memnon asks, should we take in new members from the poor or help build up the members that we currently have?
We're currently just recovering with the members we have. You're a welcome addition, frankly. A lot of the common folk of the city are still hesitant to interact with anything other than their own communities right now. They're still reeling from the effects of the plague. The city is still shaken from events a month prior.
Here's a question. Where do most of our men reside? Where do they call home?
I suppose that depends. For the more affluent among us, or the more successful, experienced, we tend to reside here. But a lot of our apprentices still live with their families, if they have any to call as such, given what's happened. Usually in the Southall slums. It can be a bit of a trek. There are a few of us in Baldwin's Gift, if I recall. Usually, again, the more well-lived among us. But most of us live in the Merchants District, and the poorest live in the slums.
It'd be a terrible waste that the poor of us could possibly be lost to difficult economics and conditions of the city. I will see what I can personally do in order to help bring our brothers a little closer to somewhere much more safe, help alleviate their fears. If only the nobles knew. The backbone of the city is in the men that build it and maintain it.
Well, I'm sure many do. They just don't think to act on it.
And you are a good man, Vasily. I was glad that now that I've been amongst you, that you are the one whom invited me here. Is there anything I could, or in any way, help you reassure your place inside the guild as its representative?
He thinks to himself for a moment. I suppose I could use some help in setting up an arrangement with another, well, a potential business partner. I said that a lot of the guilds were hit pretty hard. We're on fairly good terms with the Merchants Guild. A lot of us go through them when it comes to selling our wares. They can fetch us very good prices in bulk, and they're pretty invaluable for moving goods throughout the area, throughout the county. But Masons got hit pretty hard. We never did a great deal of business with them, but we often always had some arrangements with them in regards to the tools they require to perform their own work. Now, that arrangement has unfortunately been thrown into hot water. Those who originally, or I'd say I originally had these arrangements with, have, well, they decided to die off when the plague hit, which is, of course, left us rather dead in said hot water.
So it would help if I could make some new arrangements for this person you wanted to venture with. I assume this person was a representative within the Masons?
We're currently picking one. That's the problem. Most of the viable candidates died.
Ah, so raw talent and capability.
And of course, we're getting impatient and want them to make a decision. They're stalling for time. In part, probably because they're trying to figure out a way to pay us for our prior agreements, or find an excuse to get out of it.
Well, what if they paid us in their labor? If the Masons could the cost of their own labor, giving us a deal, maybe they could build a new set of quarters for our poor brothers down in the slums. That'd be fair.
That's an interesting idea. I'm not sure if we could get them to renovate the... That is a lot of work. That's a lot of business for them. I'm not sure we'd be able to get that much out, but it's definitely one worth considering. If not, definitely an assemblage. We could perhaps get one constructed around here. Give them all a place to put their heads down, a guaranteed meal every night.
Keep them close at hand and in a much more safer neighborhood.
Safer neighborhood. Something they won't have to pay the upkeep for either. Could be something the guild collectively puts some money towards if we can get an arrangement sorted out with the Masons. And with them constructing it, if we manage to get this deal with them, they won't have, well, we won't have to pay the initial upfront cost of its construction. It would take some time, but we could just have it as an extension to this hall. We do have some space.
renovation.
Hmm.
And come to think of it, well, let me ask Vasily, would the assistance of a money lender help in any way, or would you rather have them excluded?
Ah, lending money. You want to talk to someone else about that. Most of us don't deal in nursery around here.
Well, gentlemen,
It's
I had. Oh, go
quite
on.
quite a dubious activity. Something I believe there are a few loan officers down in the Jewish quarter. It's less of a problem for them, if I recall. I haven't read the Torah. Kind of smirks.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah, because I'm not sure how much theology
Memnon
Lennon
doesn't have.
has.
He doesn't have theology. He just has a cult.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Then he wouldn't know. Yeah, because basically in Christian and Islamic faith, usury is a sin, so it's they're not allowed to do it.
Oh yeah. User, right? Yeah.
And but it's not actually a problem for
Judaics, right?
for Judaics. Yeah, so uh, it's actually quite legal for them to do that. So
True. True.
they have that monopolized.
Okay. Well, Memnon will say, very well. We'll leave them as a last resort. But as for the Masons, I'll keep that close to the chest.
Yes, I'd very much prefer not to be dealing in money lending. It's not something I consider a forthright practice.
Memnon would turn to Christoph and he'll ask him. He'll ask him where his like normal route is. Like, where's the place that he's usually stationed?
Riverside is a fucking mess.
Riverside.
It's a criminal hive, probably the largest in the town. The captain there is well, he doesn't seem to have a handle on the issue.
Maybe I can lend you some support in that matter. This captain of yours, is he just incompetent or is he corrupt?
Some of my fellows seem to think he's in on it. I'm personally not sure. To be fair, even if we're assuming he's not, he has a lot of he would have his hands full. Wouldn't be an easy task bringing down the gangs there. I'd wager half the criminal organizations in a city are stationed there.
It would almost be its own civil war if it had to come to that. But maybe...
You say that. The Brothers of Paul have recently gotten into a conflict with Soze. They've always been at each other's throats. The conflict started up again after a fire hit the Prophet's quarter. The Brothers of Paul pushed them out, if I recall. Seems like a bit of riverside leaked down southwards. I piss running down someone's leg.
Who's doing the pissing? The question.
Such lovely imagery from this man. He should be a poet.
Memnon will put a hand on Kristoff's shoulder, and he'll say, "What do you and your brothers in good faith need? More men, better equipment? If these neighborhoods are that rough, how much danger are you and your fellow men in?"
More than you'd think, less than you'd believe, I would say is the correct term. We have to deal with a lot of brawls we have to deal with a lot of brawls. And the sheer amount of crime that means we're generally in a fair amount of danger. But this is a place where criminals often just walk freely on the streets. We aren't always able to do that much, and as such, they often don't pick fights with us if they can help it. After all, they're in it to make money, and they already run the place.
Well, it does not look good for the company of the Watch to be immersed in such danger. It may even reflect poorly on the capabilities of the said company. The criminal organizations, they could exist. Why, every man must have his vice, so as I believe. But a danger to the Watch does no one any good. It is impolite, so to speak. If I think we here in the guild, I'm sure there are brothers who indulge in the vices that these criminal organizations may bring. If we could pull our ranks together there and show them that unless they remain some semblance of civility, we can simply take their business from them. Well, at least as far as how many members, we can agree to a certain amount of piety.
Just so the ST understands correctly,
Mm-hmm.
what is Menmon suggesting in particular?
Okay. Yeah, because I know it was kind of almost a stream of thought there. Probably Memnon is given to that. He's trying to offer Kristoff help with the rationale that if crime is so bad in Riverside, then looking through the members of the guild, getting them somewhat censured or in line to stop engaging in that, like a prohibition, like if you do that, you're not considered in good standing, can help get the attentions of the gangs to clean up their act. It's a small idea he's putting out there, but at least show that they're not at the gang's mercy necessarily. It doesn't have to come to civil war.
So he kind of navel gazes for a moment and just says, "No, that might prove effective, at least in some capacity. Probably wouldn't affect the Euphrates too much. They usually just smuggle their stuff in. from what I can recall. But it definitely hit a lot of the more unorganized groups running around. I can see how that would work.
And if I may ask,
Definitely raise our own standing.
yes, and if I may ask, as I'm not familiar with the law of Odessa, is every man free to carry his own blade?
Only guardsmen or military on duty, or a member of the nobility. Doesn't prevent us from concealing what we carry, of course. Guardsmen rarely pull people over. And obviously, if a blacksmith's walking around with a hammer, nobody's going to ask any questions. But openly carrying a weapon is restricted to the aristocracy or those whose job it is to carry a weapon. I, for example, do not carry any weapons on hand other than tools, but certainly not a sword. Not unless I'm selling one.
Wait, I'm sorry, who's that speaking? Christoph or Vasily?
Vasily, sorry.
Oh, okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Well, perhaps you could suggest to some of your men, and I do have friends in Odessa, friends with certain interests in Riverside. Would it do the watch well there if people were just like how I entered Abraham's Wall? It was a checkpoint, and I was searched. Perhaps restricting the movements of the gangs, picking up weapons that people don't necessarily need.
Sorry, you're going quiet and loud again.
Sorry about that. Memnon is suggesting that the watch could set up a checkpoint in areas going out of Riverside in order to pick up weapons from people that don't need them.
It would be an idea, but it's not within my authority to do. I wouldn't be able to arrange that. Christoph says.
Well, a good idea from your lips is still a good idea. Doesn't hurt to pass it up the chain.
I'll inquire, but I can't promise all that much, I'm afraid.
Sure. Okay then. I'll ask Yoren how business has been going.
No problem. What did you say about how this is going?
He's going to ask you, Yoren, how's business been going at the market?
Business? Better ever since you arrived. With everything that's happened, demand for weapons is quite high. And with a reduction in our own numbers, we didn't really have the means to fill those orders. So your assistance is very much appreciated. We're beginning to slowly get back into the swing of things now. We're recovering a bit faster than the other guilds. Obviously, the Masons are in disarray. The only ones who are really doing as well as we are right now are the merchants, who weren't as affected as badly by the plague as perhaps the other guilds were.
This makes me think. Your flattery is appreciated, Yoren. Though I would not say I am famous artisan. Christoph, perhaps, if you were to start dropping my name, quality of my blades, and oh, I could produce the quality necessary to some of the people that are unsavory in Riverside. Perhaps Yoren here could take note of faces and names.
We could
Yes,
cross-reference the people we run into. Kind of Crystal says, looking at Yoren.
I'm sure Yoren, you can distinguish the well-to-do from the ne'er-do-wells, so to speak.
If we're in Riverside, I can assure you the vast majority of them will be ne'er-do-wells.
Well, it is a start, but first, the longest journey starts with a single footstep, my friends. And Memnon will bid the silly farewell, and he'll walk out with Yoren and Kristoff, and maybe they talk a little bit more, and he'll tell Yoren that he'll see him back at the Haven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll walk with Kristoff a little ways, maybe back towards wherever he has to be stationed. I kind of want to try to build just since Kristoff doesn't necessarily know Memnon's nature, but on a friendly basis. Can I perform some kind of if not carousing, some kind of role just to, yeah, I guess carousing, really. Yeah, we'll go to carousing.
I think carousal is charisma empathy, if I recall correctly, because carousal is an empathy specialty. So, yeah, you can befriend him a bit more.
One success.
One success.
Hmm?
He is your ally, so he already has like a positive disposition towards you.
Mm.
So you just kind of speak with him a bit more and you befriend him more. Is there anything like specifically you're looking for, or are you just looking to kind
of
just
I guess
get him to trust you more?
I guess in that talking they've done, Memnon is trying to at least get across that he's genuine and sincere of lending Kristoff help, like physical help, like he's not to take care of matters in Riverside, you know.
Oh no, he definitely believes you. He
Like I guess you'd pass off a statement like, you know, perhaps you can't go into a tavern and knock some skulls around, but I can.
Mm. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I heard something about knocking skulls around again. I keep hearing like parts of the sentence, and then the other part just kind of dips out.
yeah, I have abrupt stops to my speech. I just abruptly stop.
Oh no, I think it's the mic because it keeps your voice keeps going up and down in volume. So unless you're doing something to the mic, I would assume it's an issue with the microphone.
Oh, probably because it wasn't all the way plugged in just yet. That's why.
That might be why. We
Stuck
made
out
the end
just a
of the
hair.
scene. Do we figure this out?
It stuck out just a hair, and then like, whoop, there it goes. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, he just is trying to, get it across. Like, yeah, I have no problem going into a tavern and knocking some skulls around because a man of your caliber, and that's not, what the watch is for.
That one was my fault. Something that the watch isn't for.
Like going into a tavern and just knocking some skulls around. They have to appear lawful.
Oh yeah, yeah. They can't just act like thugs. I mean,
Exactly.
Christopher will talk to you about how some of them basically are in like their attitudes and how they carry themselves, and doesn't really happen a lot in the better neighborhoods, but quite like in the slums and Riverside, the city watch is definitely rougher and less respectful. Um, and some of them are definitely compromised in that they're either abusive or in on the gig with the gangs, but it's kind of difficult to tell sometimes. Some of them are just some of them literally are uh, just bullies with no real connection to the gangs. But he would believe that many of them who do indulge in that behavior are basically just thugs for hire with the gangs.
Okay. I guess the last question, Memnon would ask Kristoff, like, how many men in the watch does he like really trust to be good men?
He knows a couple men he puts his confidence into.
Okay. And I'm sorry, just one more question. He'll ask him, if I could, perhaps acquire you and some of these good men to be stationed closer to the guild hall. Who would I have to speak to?
Probably the captain of Riverside. He's the one who manages a lot of the assignments. Well, he's the one who manages the assignments for Riverside.
Would you find that relocation preferable?
Very much so. I mean, Riverside needs as much help as it can get.
Indeed. Indeed.
But it can only be helped if it wants to be helped, and I don't think a lot of the people there actually want to be helped.
Well, Memnon would like, ask him what the captain's name, maybe where he could be found, but he'll reassure him that I think both outcomes of helping Riverside and relocating you and your men somewhere better can both be achieved, perhaps one before the other.
Good luck convincing him.
I'll do my best, but I will return home now, and thank you for attending this little soiree. You be safe out there, Christoph.
You just have a good evening.
Yeah.
No. Cool. Walk on off.
I'm sorry, what was that, Chris?
He will as you return home, so will he. He will return to the barracks in Riverside.
Okay. And yeah, I guess with that, we'll call it a scene. Emmon's got everything he needed.
Thank you, person playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time.